The movie begins with Vince Papale arriving late for a football game with his friends. He's a skilled player who could help his team win. After the game, he goes straight home where his wife Sharon scolds him for only playing games instead of focusing on his job as a substitute teacher. She's tired of their tough financial situation. Vince promises to improve their life, and Sharon calms down and thanks him. The next day at school, Vince finds another teacher already in his classroom. The principal tells him the school is in financial trouble and lets him go. That night, Vince talks to his friend Max about working more hours at his bar to make up for his lost job. While Vince was working and chatting with his friends, he heard on TV that the Eagle football team needed new players. Their current players weren't performing well, so they were opening tryouts to the public. Vince's friends encouraged him to try out because they believed he had the skills to be a pro football player. After work, Vince went home and was shocked to find his house empty. He searched for his wife and found a note saying she thought he was useless and wanted a divorce. This made Vince furious, and he angrily threw things around the room. He felt devastated, losing both his wife and his job. As he calmed down, he sat against the wall, feeling like his life was falling apart and doubting his worth. The next night, Vince was late for work at Max's bar. When he arrived, he found Janet, a new female employee, had taken his place. It turned out she was Max's niece. Vince's friends at the bar kept talking about football and urged him to join their team. Despite being 30 years old and feeling too old for pro sports, Vince wasn't interested. During a break, Vince and his friend Tommy sat outside. Tommy kept pushing Vince to join the football selection. Believing Vince could help the Eagles team win again, Vince stayed quiet, not saying anything. After work, Vince went to his father's house and asked to borrow $100 for rent. He felt ashamed to still rely on his father at his age, and apologized for being a burden. His father then talked to Vince about joining the Eagle team selection. He encouraged Vince to see it as a chance to make him proud, and urged him to consider the opportunity seriously. On selection day, many people were eager to join the Eagle team. Some participants couldn't play football well. Coach Dick noticed Vince's strong running skills. After tests, Coach Dick ended the day's trials. Later, Vince, Max, and Janet were at Max's bar when reporters wanted to interview Vince. At first, he refused, but Max and Janet convinced him. The next day, Vince trained hard, running all day. Coach Dick treated all players equally and wanted proof of their abilities. Vince impressed, which upset older players when Coach praised him. After practice, Vince found a rival team shirt in his room from Janet. Seniors found a letter from Vince's wife in his clothes, leading to a competitive practice where seniors used words from the letter against him. Vince heard this and immediately got up and fought with his senior. The staff and coaches intervened between them. In the evening, the coach's assistant gave the roster of players to Coach Dick, who would move on to the next exam stage. Vince felt anxious because he was afraid of not being selected. He sat quietly in his room while waiting for the results. Soon there was a knock on the door, and someone said that Coach Dick wanted to see him. It turned out that Vince was selected and entered the next stage. At the same time, news about the Eagle team's selection was broadcast on television again, so all of his friends knew about it. In the next practice, Vince ran with his senior but lost. Then he took off some of his clothes to make it easier for him to run quickly. After that, in the second test, he was indeed able to compete with his senior's running speed. After practice, Vince visited the bar to take Janet out to dinner. Shortly afterward, they went to eat at a roadside restaurant. Vince seemed to know that Janet had feelings for him. He told her that he wanted to focus on training so he could join the Eagle team because he thought this opportunity should not be missed.
I was just thinking, I didn't think I was going to make it past the first week of all this. Now that I have, maybe it's just better if I just think about one thing instead of everything else.
Afterward, Vince returned to the Eagle team dorm and accidentally met a big man named Denai Frank. Here he explains how to know the opponent's movement by looking at 3 fingers when the game is about to start. The next day, practice started again. This time, Coach Dick needed only 5 people out of 40 who took part in the selection. He also decided to select a one-on-one power struggle. The first test began between Vince and Germain, one of the senior Eagles. Vince used the method Denai taught him by reading the opponent's movements using 3 fingers. And sure enough, using that method, he won easily. In short, after passing several exercises, the Eagle team had a preseason match. The Eagle team's preseason record had never won and suffered 6 defeats. On the other hand, Vince was waiting for his father in front of his house. When he got home, his father told Vince he had just been fired. Vince apologized for borrowing money from his father and always burdening him. His father said to make himself useful by proving that he could become a professional football team player and make their village proud. On the other hand, Coach Dick and other staff were voting to fill only one player slot. There were only two candidates: Samson, a senior Eagle team member, and Vince. Most of the staff preferred Samson over Vince.
Samson.
Samson.
Samson. Samson.
But Coach Dick considered Vince more than him. After that, Coach Dick decided to go home and consult with his wife. She told him that he just needed to listen to his heart. Finally, he decided that he wanted Vince because he was humble and unyielding. The next day, while Vince was in the locker room, the coach's assistant approached him and told him to meet with Coach Dick. There they asked each other about the news. Not long after, Vince asked about the coach and his family's condition. Dick was touched because only Vince cared about how he was. Undeniably, Vince was the most mature player. He thought he would not be chosen by the team and could only surrender. However, Coach Dick allowed him to get into his team's plans. Soon afterward, when he was about to go home, Vince's car broke down, and he immediately called Tommy. He told Tommy that he was accepted as a member of the Eagle team. Hearing that, Tommy congratulated him and treated him at Max's bar. Arriving there, his friends warmly greeted Vince, and his father also came to the bar to congratulate him. In short, the day of the inaugural regular league match between Eagle versus Cowboys arrived. As seen in the dressing room, the players are getting ready with a state of anxiety and nervousness. Given the previous match, they were less than optimal and suffered many defeats. When the match started, it was seen that the Eagle team was overwhelmed by the Cowboys team. Meanwhile, Vince was feeling confused and playing poorly. Coach Dick replaced him, but the Eagle team lost badly to the Cowboys team. Many fans were disappointed with Vince's first appearance in the league. Vince went to a football field to think about his life. Later, he went to Janet's house to confess his feelings for her and ask her to marry him. Janet wasn't ready for a serious relationship, so she said no. Vince then went to watch his friends playing football, but he initially hesitated to join because he was worried about getting injured before the upcoming league match. Eventually, he joined them in the rain, and his team won, which lifted his spirits. Now, 1 week later, the Eagle team is preparing to face the Giant team in their next match. Before the game, Coach Dick motivated the team to bring glory to the Eagle team again. Soon, the match started. In the first minute, Vince tackled an opponent in the 15-yard area. The match was intense with an even score. Unfortunately, with 20 minutes left, the Eagle team was stuck defending, looking for a chance to counterattack. They regained possession and prepared to attack again. Vince remembered Denny's advice to read opponents' movements by watching their fingers. He shouted instructions to his teammates, and his tactics worked, leading the Eagle team to victory. The stadium erupted in cheers for the win. After that game, Vince became famous in football and played 3 special seasons with the Eagle team. Coach Dick guided them to win Super Bowl 15. The movie ends. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.